after a semester, transferred to the University of Santo Tomas, where well-known American professor Stanley Prescott ran the business school. He completed the 4-year course in 2.5 years, summa cum laude, to boot. He took the government examinations for a certified public accountant license the same year, but he was only 19 when the CPA results were released. Unable to practice his profession because he was 2 years short of the required age, Mr. Sycip asked his father for permission to study in the United States, and when his father agreed, he immediately chose Columbia University. As usual, Mr. Sycip applied himself with tenacity to the pursuit of the Columbia degree. He had completed all academic requirements at the top of his class, short of the doctoral dissertation when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, followed by news of their occupation of the Philippines, compelled him to reassess his priorities. 2 questions are usually asked about Mr. Sycip. Why is his name Washington, and why is he an American citizen? He was named Washington after the U.S. Capitol, where his father successfully defended a case filed with the U.S. Supreme Court. Mr. Wash was born at that time. As to his American citizenship, Mr. Sycip's all but dissertation graduate student at Columbia, entered enlisted in the U.S. Army during the war, and was promptly sent to a California camp for infantry training. His IQ test results and academic and personal background convinced the military that he had the aptitude and skills for a different line of work. He was made to undergo 8 months of intensive Japanese language training, followed by a cryptography course. In many ways, he recalls, code work is very much like auditing. You look for clues. He was shipped off to Calcutta, India to join a special army intelligence unit assigned to intercept and decipher coded Japanese messages around the Indochina Peninsula. The team's efforts enabled the Allies to anticipate enemy attacks and to monitor material developments or unusual troop movements. Given the highly sensitive and confidential nature of his work, the Americans sworn him in as an American citizen. When the war ended, Mr. Sycip went home to the war-ravaged Manila and had since helped rebuild the country's private sector institutions, motivated by a deep commitment to this nation and to its future. Ever the global citizen, he gives a face to the men and women who think globally and act locally in a borderless world. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Wash Sycip.
Cynthia, thank you very much for your kind words. You know more about me than I do. President Roman, members of the faculty, and friends of UP. Not being a graduate of the leading educational institution of the country, I'm deeply honored that you have invited me to be one of the speakers in your celebration of 100 years of service to the nation. In today's talk, I intend to raise a number of very frank questions. Since you receive more government funds than any other educational institution in the country, I, as a taxpayer, may claim the right to raise questions. No? I hope you will not consider this as an abuse of the gracious invitation extended to me by President Roman. Going over the book, The University of the Philippines, a university for Filipinos, which was published as UP celebrated its Diamond Jubilee 25 years ago, one cannot miss the introduction that says, quote, a UP degree holder is generally believed to be more capable than most college graduates, as well as imbued with a sense of purpose, with minds capable of new ideas and perceptions and passionate commitment to the social good, end of quote. If UP has accurately claimed that during the past 62 years, after we left the US umbrella, UP graduates have occupied the presidential chair for 46 years, then my first question, if I may ask you, is this: why are we in such a mess? Over 50 years ago, we were told that with our advantages of being a Christian nation and a democracy, we will be, next to Japan, the leading nation of East Asia. Today, we find ourselves in a steadily declining position, regardless of what measure we go by: poverty index, per capita spending on education, crime rate, corruption ranking, peace and order, rural health, and the list goes on. We are usually at the bottom of the list. Unfortunately, we've even found ourselves, in spite of our large population, with the lamentable distinction of being the only major Southeast Asian nation that did not win any medal at the recently concluded Olympic Games. Can we blame the religion Spain brought to our shores 5 centuries ago for our limitations, or the US for the failure of our democracy? Shouldn't our decades of freedom be long enough for us to correct any inherited disadvantages? With all the talented people we have, why have we not been able to produce a Lee Kuan Yew, who in one generation brought his people in Singapore to income levels of the US or Germany? Or a K.T. Lee of Taiwan, a physics graduate of Cambridge, who introduced the computer to every age group in Taiwan, so that this small country has become the largest exporter of computers and components. Or even a Mahathir of Malaysia, who greatly improved infrastructure and increased income level of all citizens in a mixed society of Malays, Chinese, and Indians with different religions. Or even a General Park of South Korea, whose tough and disciplined administration industrialized a country where the large firms successfully competed with the companies of its former colonial master. Or a Deng Xiaoping, who released the energy of his people to achieve in 25 years the greatest reduction of poverty in world history. We did have the promise of a Ramon Magsaysay, who as Secretary of Defense greatly improved peace and order, but whose unfortunate early death 50 years ago prevented him from carrying out a program to improve the lives of the bottom group of our people. Then we had Rafael Salas, a brilliant graduate of UP. In 1969, fresh from managing the transformation of chronic shortage into an astounding Philippine rice sufficiency breakthrough, Salas accepted a United Nations offer to head a fledgling fund. He believed at the UN there would be a possibility of making a contribution to solving what he thought was becoming one of the world's major problems: population. He thought that the same strategies employed in the rice sufficiency program in the Philippines would work in a sophisticated international environment, as they did in tradition bound in the Philippine rural communities. In fact, he was proven right. Alex Marshall, of the United Nations Population Fund writes, quote, "The consensus which Salas built is more than an act of diplomacy. It is a solid evidence of the recognition worldwide of the importance of population in development programs. It has helped to change the policies of governments. It has helped to change the lives of millions of people. It has set men and women free to make choices for themselves and help secure the future of children yet unborn. They and all of us stand in his debt," end of quote, describing Peng Salas. But Filipinos have surmised that Peng left the Philippines because his integrity and competence could not survive in a climate of government corruption. Will UP be able to produce other leaders like Salas? And can they succeed in the Philippine political soil? In 1983, 30 years after he had graduated from UP, and at that time an Undersecretary General at the United Nations, he returned here to receive an honorary Doctor of Laws degree from his alma mater. As Salas thanked the university for the honor conferred on him, he also took leave by asking the question, what can the scholar of this university do to solve the Philippine problem when it will be a country of 70 million people? His widow, Menchu Salas, the highly respected Philippine ambassador to the Czech Republic, speaking at the World Population Day Forum in Manila this last July, pointed to this very same concern today. She said, the Philippines is a country of 89 million people, and in 2030 will be close to 140 million. Again, she said, would have asked the scholars of this university the same question today, as he did when he delivered his talk here. I asked, what will be the answer to this population problem? Post-EDSA 1, in February of 1987, when freedom in the Philippines had been won with what the world would know as people power, Salas was keynote speaker at the district meeting of Rotary clubs in Manila. In a speech that one Rotarian referred to as the best sona he had ever heard, Peng spoke on managing the aftermath